So, hey, folks, this is part two of some thoughts I have about the Taliban in Afghanistan. And what I was also hinting at, by the way, in the first video, right off the bat, with all these different people I've known from all the world, is um, that this is something that a lot of people don't realize about YouTube. You can talk to people from anywhere. Just find the subject matter on YouTube that you want to watch, and there's a good chance that with certain subjects that certain people from certain countries are going to be watching that's that material, and then you're talking to somebody from that country. The only exception to that, you're going to get some serious censorship in like China, North Korea, of course, but you know, I haven't really talked to a whole lot of Persians also on YouTube, but other than China, North Korea, Iran, I don't know. So it's like, but no, it's just one of the things that is really great about YouTube, and you can really get more of an idea of what's going on in different places in the world that you haven't been to before. But as I mentioned before, it's kind of like if everybody in your village or town thinks a certain way about something, there's a good chance you're going to feel the same way about whatever it is. You take a small town in Utah, there's a good chance that everybody's going to be conservative and Mormon in that town. Most everybody. If they're not Mormon, they're going to be Protestant or something like that. Christian. Maybe Navajo or the South, something like that. Or Ute or something. American Indian beliefs. If you go to a small town in Kazakhstan or Mongolia, what do you think is going to be going on there? Kazakhstan, I think they're Muslim. Mongolia, I think they're Buddhist, I think. Not sure. But, I mean, like, yeah, in Mongolia, you're going to be having that more hearty food, probably. Hopefully. Maybe some starchy vegetables. Probably not so much not so much the rice and the fish and well, I don't know, northern China is different than southern China, but things are going to be a little different, right? Life is going to be a little different than in China. Kazakhstan, maybe a lot of sheep guys, I don't know. Out in the steppes, a lot of open country, if you're living out in the country. But, so if you're not living in Afghanistan, you're going to want to be near your family and relatives and do what your elders want you to do, and there you go. And if, your tribe is a more righteous tribe or better people or ethical people, cool. If they're less ethical, then they're less ethical or less whatever, And there's a question always of, okay, so Afghanis, what kind of people are they? We're going to have to go back to who I've known. I've known very few people from Afghanistan, other than that one guy I knew at Nintendo. But watching the Reactistan videos, you start to... some of those folks are from... It's more Pakistan, perhaps, but there's one guy that was from a borderland of... It was from a tribe, group of people, I think the Baluchi people, or something like that, from like where Iran meets Afghanistan meets Pakistan, kind of that area. But you probably do get a few people here and there that are in Afghanistan. And, yeah, and so the other thing is, what am I putting myself in the average shoes of any Afghani from any of the tribes, like Hazara, I don't know, any of them. How much control over what's going on do they have? They don't have nobody has any control. And if a lot of these folks, the guys in the Taliban even, they're in the Taliban because if they were to leave the Taliban, they get shot. You know, I mean, like, what, what's really going on? The Taliban came into power because, well, the Americans left. They're like, hey, it's time for us to take over. They knew they could. They had the manpower, they had the will, they had the training. Every country in the world that has a weak, we'll say a weak populace. No, let me rephrase that. That's not quite the right. It's not quite accurate. Every country in the world that I think that has some problems with its culture. And when I say problems with its culture, I mean things about that country that could create a lot of instability regarding what life is like on a daily basis. This is what I think about a bit more than whether or not a people are good or evil, because you have good and evil in every country. You might have a certain norm, you might have certain societies that seem a bit more righteous at times, but what do I mean by cultural stuff that could make your situation more precarious? Well, the Jews are a very brave and very principled people overall, in my opinion, at least, and especially in certain respects. Some people would disagree with that vehemently, but I think the Jews are good people. But they know how to. There's certain things they're really good at. So, Israel is a pretty stable country. There's reasons why Israel maybe is doing better than certain other countries in the Middle East. But, as we're seeing from the Arabian Peninsula, let's look at the Arabian Peninsula for a second. Saudi Arabia, Oman, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, all these nations, except for Yemen, really, all those nations are doing great, doing awesome, doing better than they have been in the past. So in addition to Israel, why is that the Arabian Peninsula nations are doing so good? Is it just oil? No. That's probably helping out a lot. But I think I know why the Arab nations are doing better. How about Iraq? Iraq is kind of going through some tough stuff still, overall. I'm going to leave Iraq alone for a bit. How about Iran? There's a lot of things going on with Iran that we don't know about because we just don't hear from Iran enough. But I've heard that there's growing numbers of people that don't like the oppressive, old school stuff. And so Turkey. Turkey's also kind of got a lot of secular stuff going on. Egypt has done a lot to try to increase tourism in its country. I think they've done a lot of stuff. They're doing a lot of irrigation stuff, and I guess it's just that there are things that help a country have a higher standard of living and have people have happier, better lives. And then there are things that you can kind of result in the opposite effect. And it's just, this is what the meat of what so much of what I'm talking about is all about. I have to go back to certain things about Afghanistan though for a bit because um, there's the question of whether or not we should have the U.S. go back in there again and kick out the Taliban, kill them all. You know, that very well might happen, but do you know what I think Biden will do instead of sending over troops? I honestly think, I honestly think he's gonna precision drone strikes, airstrikes, wherever the Taliban are. He's gonna just bomb the crap out of those places. If he wants to do it, I mean, there is absolutely nothing. I mean, nothing that is preventing Biden from doing that very thing, taking that course of action, just blowing the crap out of those. It would now the question is, I mean, we had to get into Afghanistan somehow. There had to have been some way in. Was it via Russia in the stands? Was it via Pakistan somehow? It certainly wasn't from Iran, and it certainly wasn't from China. So whatever route we took to get in there, we can get in there again. But Afghanistan is a very isolated nation. It is one of those places where it's not too hard for me to see that we just have no access to that area. And if we have no access to that area, let's just forget about it, man. But if Biden really wanted to, he could take, you know, only a quarter of the Air Force, like bombers, there's a lot of bombers, and just get flatten Kabul. There's no question of how much collateral damage there would be, how many innocent people's lives lost. I don't think Biden wants to kill anybody accidentally. So those precision strikes, but that's probably going to happen anyway. I mean, he's already gotten out all the people, the troops, or that's basically the process. And you have a bunch of people flying over to Europe, United States, or wherever from Afghanistan. I don't think he's going to commit troops. I think it's going to be drone strikes, and then he's probably going to, I don't know, maybe you might see other powers get in there, but if we do send troops in there again, I mean, who's to say when this war is going to end? Because it's not going to be a world war. We wouldn't approve of it. Why would we approve something like that? Yes, there are a lot of people that hate the Taliban, but is this a reason to start a major war? And I was thinking it's just Afghanistan. It's not going to start a world war. Well, what if the Taliban have a lot of support not only from Pakistan, from other areas in the Muslim world where they get angry enough about the Taliban being wiped out that they just okay, it's war. And, then there's always a question if Russia and China get involved, because once those guys get involved, then it's just all over. It's all over after the point. I remember being nervous about Iran when one of I think some I just remember a lot of stuff going on. I can't remember the details. But let's get back to just the fact that people are people. It's just something that some people we don't it's not always forefront in our minds. The one thing that no military wants to make a certain nation that you're going to be fighting against, make them show their humanity, have them talk to you about stuff, so you find your common ground. No military wants their soldiers to engage in that kind of stuff, because they're not going to want to fight those people, right? Yeah, of course. what does the United States not want right now? That's the question. In terms of even their military. It's, I don't know. Like, what does YouTube not want? Does YouTube not want people from different countries talking to each other about stuff? Because, we're going to understand each other better, and we're going to say, to heck with wars. I don't want to support this anymore, or that anymore. And then the governments are going, we can't recruit soldiers. And I'm looking at the Illuminati stuff mainly. I mean, we already know a lot of folks won't join the armed forces of the United States because we're all getting more savvy to what's actually happening with regard to the military industrial complex. It's just no matter what happens war-wise, they always make money. They always make money when they can sell their stuff. And people's lives are lost, and whoever. And so that's why people aren't joining the military as much. Why would we? Why? I mean, people just join the military a lot of times because they could get out of the country for a bit. They could be physically active. They could meet new people. They could all these other reasons. But who wants to join the military because they honestly want to fight, injustice or an evil dictator in some country? It just doesn't happen anymore. I would imagine in World War II, a lot of people hated Hitler. The only reason that you wouldn't hate Hitler is if you really were seriously white supremacist or something like that. But it was majority of people didn't like Hitler. So yeah, but that was Hitler. I mean, we have a lot of people that are kind of scumbags or dictators and stuff in modern times. But we're not talking about the mass extermination of millions of people, are we? Well, if you're talking about mass exterminations, what about the Uyghur in China? We just don't hear about it because they're so isolated in the middle of Asia, in the westernmost part of China. It's a weird world we live in, folks. It really is. And going back to the comment section stuff, it's like, talking with different people, everybody's just super pumped up about whatever, they're voicing their loyalties this way, or they're talking about this or that, or this or that. And here, meanwhile, you know this is the case. But if you don't believe in Satan or demons, whatever. But it's just, that even if it's flesh and blood human beings somewhere, they're looking at this stuff and they're laughing to themselves. The Illuminati looking at this stuff. They're just going, these idiots just gonna keep, arguing until they're dead about stupid stuff. They have no idea what's going on. We control everything. We engineered all this stuff. We knew it was going to happen. And so if I could just talk to everybody, mostly these young guys, would be like, guys, we're all just pawns in this bigger game. Can we stop being pawns for a second and just start looking at the king and queen of different sides and say, who's calling the shots here? In defense of the Taliban, which seems like I'm a little bit more anti-Taliban than I'm pro-Taliban. I'm still not pro-Taliban, but the Taliban, who's got their back? Who's supporting them? Pakistan. Pakistan is not even, I think they're number 10 in the world military power rankings. But Pakistan is just a military. It's just a big giant military system. That's all they do is military. A lot of people are illiterate. What does Pakistan have going for them? All their energy is all military oriented. I mean, financially, who's backing the Taliban anymore? And there are limits to that, you know. Meanwhile, you have some countries that if Biden really wanted to, and it's approved by Congress, of course, if we went to war with the Taliban, like actual war, and people were drafted, so we actually had like tens of millions, if not more, um, soldiers. You know, we just flooded Afghanistan with everything we had, and we could single-handedly we could disarm every single landmine in that country. I'm sure of it. We could explore every single cave. We could kill every single Taliban member. We could do it. It would probably take that kind of effort because of how intricate all the caves are there and how remote it is. It's just who wants to mess with Afghanistan right now? And so the Taliban think they're all super powerful, but then if the Taliban were to try anything outside of taking over their own country's government, they get squashed like a bug. But I certainly don't want Afghanis to feel bad about whatever. It's just we're not talking about hundreds and thousands of fighter jets and stealth bombers and state of the art tanks and uh, aircraft carriers that have railguns and ICBMs and nukes and we're not talking about that stuff. We're talking about Kalashnikovs and smaller tanks and RPGs and like, come on, man. I'm not necessarily talking about guys on horseback, but I mean, I know. Personally, in all honesty, I think it's kind of small potatoes. I hate to say it, but it kind of is. But I'll put it this way: if the United States doesn't come back, Russia's moving in for the kill. We think, oh, Russia, that's not good, actually. No. Well, would Russia try to become a Soviet power again? We've always wondered that, haven't we? No. No. If Putin values the capitalism in Russia, that higher standard of living, he's not going to go back to communism. If he has an IQ over 90, which I think he does. No, it's just... But Russia is going to want to have more of a buffer zone and more good feelings from neighboring nations in that area, probably. Because he's probably eyeing China's growing power. Anything that he could do to even up because Russia is more powerful than China still, but not by a whole lot. I don't know. There's other things going on there. If it indeed Russia doesn't want anything to do with Afghanistan, the United States doesn't come back, and then you could have the Taliban running Afghanistan for quite a long time. So, I guess the question is, well, then people saying, well, hey, where's the United States? Why aren't you guys doing anything? Well, the United States isn't supposed to be the world's babysitters. We never should have been that way. Everybody the world over needs to be able to fend for themselves on some level. We want to fight tyranny, but it's kind of like There's only so much resources also that a nation has. And if you're fighting a war, fighting like multiple wars at once, or you're, like, sometimes it's just not worth it. Is it worth it to defuse every single landmine in Afghanistan? I think it is, because you want kids' legs being blown off and stuff. The reason why those landmines are there in the first place had to do with the Afghanis defending themselves against invading Russians. So I'm not sure how the Afghanis would feel about Russia getting involved. And Russia's got some catch up to do in that regard. Personally, I think, again, Biden, he's going to do those drone strikes. Take out the leaders. He's going to want to work with Britain. He's going to want to work with other nations that maybe can pick up the slack that we, Isn't it kind of stinky, though, how the smaller nations, the nations that people care about less, more bad things happen to them? I hate that. At least in the old world. At least in Asia and Africa. At least in those places. In the West, things are a little different, a little safer. I cannot imagine a feeling of nobody. There's nobody that you can count on. Other than, imagine the parents, kids in Afghanistan, and maybe they don't have any more money. The banks are all closed, or something like that. They lost all their money. So how are they gonna feed their kids? Holy crap, man! And they have nobody to turn to. Maybe, I don't know, turn to God. Maybe some miracles would happen. I don't know. I just know that. Well, I guess I'll say I'm curious as to what's going to happen. They took the capital. The Taliban took the capital bloodlessly. At least, I don't think too many people got killed. So, maybe this is not going to be such a bad situation. Although I've never approved of how women are treated in the Middle East, but we'll just see what happens, I guess. But I would think that more people throughout the world would want to rise up against tyrants and against tyrannical powers. I would think that there's probably a point at which people get to a point where they just go berserk and they'd rather die rather than submit to be a slave or something like that. And that's a worldwide kind of thing. And nobody can change. Nobody can affect, or nobody can control somebody. Demons try to possess people's bodies, in fact. But they can't do that unless, well, that's a different thing, but it's just, people still have their freedom to act how they want to act. Anyway, you guys have any thoughts and comments below? Catch us later. Take care. Bye.